Have you ever woken up in the middle of your own life and realized you don't recognize the person staring back at you in the mirror? That feeling when you're surrounded by people yet feel completely alone because nobody really knows who you are, not even yourself. You smile when you're supposed to smile, say what you're supposed to say, chase goals that never belonged to you in the first place. You've been living someone else's script for so long that you've forgotten your own voice. This isn't just about feeling lost, it's about the terrifying realization that the person you think you are might be nothing more than a carefully constructed illusion. Tonight, we're going to explore the brutal truth that ancient Taoism reveals about human existence and why most people spend their entire lives pretending to be alive without ever truly living. The ancient Taoist sages understood something we've forgotten in our modern world. They knew that most human beings spend their entire lives pretending to exist without ever truly living. Zhuangzi spoke of people who are so busy becoming someone else that they never discover who they actually are. Today we call it authenticity, but the Taoists called it something much deeper. Returning to your original nature, your true self that exists before all the masks, all the roles, all the expectations. This isn't some abstract philosophical concept. This is about the daily agony of living as someone you're not, the exhaustion that comes from maintaining a performance that never ends, and the profound emptiness that grows larger every day you betray your own essence. You wake up every morning and put on a performance. Maybe you're the successful professional who has everything together on the outside while falling apart on the inside. Perhaps you're the people pleaser who bends yourself into impossible shapes to make others happy while your own soul withers away. Or maybe you're the perpetual achiever, climbing ladders that are leaning against walls you never wanted to reach. The brutal truth that Taoism reveals is that all of these identities are prisons you've built for yourself. And the worst part is that you've grown so comfortable in these chains that you've forgotten what freedom feels like. Every morning, you put on the costume of who you think you're supposed to be, and every night you fall asleep a little more disconnected from who you actually are. The Tao Te Ching begins with the mysterious words, "The Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao." This isn't just philosophical poetry, it's pointing to something fundamental about existence itself. Your true nature cannot be captured in words, cannot be defined by your job title, your relationship status, your achievements, or your failures. It exists in the space between your thoughts, in the silence between your words, in the stillness that remains when all the noise of your fabricated identity falls away. Most people spend their entire lives running from this silence because it terrifies them. It reveals how much of what they think they are is just smoke and mirrors. The silence strips away the carefully constructed persona and leaves you face to face with the unknown territory of your authentic self. This performance you've been giving isn't just exhausting, it's killing you slowly. Not physically, though the stress of maintaining a false identity certainly takes its toll on your body. It's killing your spirit, your creativity, your capacity for genuine joy and connection. You've become so skilled at being who others expect you to be that you've lost touch with your own preferences, your own values, your own dreams. You ask yourself what you want for dinner and realize you don't know because you've spent so much time eating what others want you to eat. You wonder what kind of life would make you happy and come up empty because you've been so focused on living the life that looks successful to others. If you've ever felt this deep disconnect between who you are and who you're pretending to be, drop a comment below and simply write, "I'm ready to stop pretending." Your honesty might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. You're not alone in feeling like you're living someone else's life, and sometimes just acknowledging this truth out loud is the first step toward finding your way back to yourself. Your vulnerability gives others permission to be vulnerable too. 1. Embrace the terrifying emptiness of not knowing who you are. Western culture teaches us that uncertainty about our identity is a weakness, something to be fixed as quickly as possible. We're supposed to have our life figured out, know our passion, understand our purpose by the time we graduate, get married, start a career. But Taoism reveals this as a fundamental misunderstanding of how life actually works. The Tao Te Ching speaks of the value of emptiness, the space inside a bowl that makes it useful, the hollow of a cup that allows it to hold water. Your not knowing, your confusion, your sense of being lost isn't a problem to be solved. It's the very space where authentic discovery becomes possible. When you stop frantically trying to fill that emptiness with borrowed identities, you create room for your genuine nature to emerge. The person you've been pretending to be was built from external expectations, societal norms, family pressures, and cultural programming. But your true self exists in the unknown, in the mystery of who you might become when you stop trying to control the outcome. This unknowing isn't comfortable. It feels like free falling without a parachute, but it's the only honest place to start because everything else has been a lie. 2. Recognize the soul-crushing exhaustion of maintaining a false identity. Living as someone you're not is the most exhausting thing a human being can do. It requires constant vigilance, endless performance, perpetual self-monitoring. You have to remember which version of yourself you're supposed to be in different situations, which opinions you're supposed to have, which emotions you're allowed to express. With your family, you're one person. At work, you're someone completely different. With friends, you wear another mask entirely. And somewhere in between all these performances, your real self suffocates under the weight of all these roles. The Taoist concept of Wu Wei, or effortless action, points to a completely different way of being. When you're aligned with your authentic nature, life flows naturally. You don't have to work so hard to be yourself because you're not fighting against your own essence. But when you're living a lie, everything becomes a struggle. You're swimming against the current of your own soul, and that's why you feel so tired all the time. It's not just physical exhaustion, it's the bone-deep weariness that comes from betraying yourself every single day. You wake up tired, not because you didn't sleep enough, but because you're exhausted from being someone you're not. 3. Understand that your protective masks have become your prison. The identities you've created to protect yourself, to gain approval, to fit in, to succeed, have become the very barriers preventing you from experiencing genuine connection and authentic happiness. You built these masks when you were young and vulnerable, when the world seemed dangerous and unpredictable. Maybe you learned to be perfect because anything less brought criticism or disappointment. Perhaps you learned to be invisible because being seen felt too risky. Or maybe you learned to be entertaining because that was the only way to get attention and love. These strategies worked for a while. They kept you safe, helped you navigate a complex social world, earned you some measure of acceptance and approval. But Zhuangzi told a story about a man who was so concerned with his shadow and footprints following him that he ran faster and faster to escape them, not realizing that if he simply sat down in the shade, both would disappear. Your false identities are like these shadows. The harder you work to maintain them, the more solid they become. The more you invest in being someone you're not, the further you drift from who you actually are. These masks began as survival mechanisms, but they've become prisons where you're both the guard and the prisoner. 4. Learn to sit with the unbearable discomfort of authenticity. Being real in a world full of pretense is deeply uncomfortable. When you stop performing, when you stop saying what people want to hear, when you stop molding yourself to meet others' expectations, you will make people uncomfortable. They might question you, judge you, even reject you. This is terrifying because humans are social creatures, and rejection feels like death to our primitive brain. But the Taoists understood that the path back to your true nature requires walking through this discomfort. Like a butterfly that must struggle to break free from its cocoon, the struggle itself is what strengthens your wings. Every time you choose authenticity over acceptance, every time you choose truth over comfort, you're building the courage muscles you need to live as yourself rather than as everyone else's projection of who you should be. The discomfort isn't a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign you're doing something real. Most people will do anything to avoid this discomfort, which is why most people live their entire lives as strangers to themselves. 5. Embrace the sacred practice of returning to stillness. In Taoist tradition, meditation isn't about achieving some blissful state or transcendent experience. It's about returning to your original nature, the self that exists before conditioning, before programming, before you learn to be someone else. This practice requires sitting with yourself without distraction, without entertainment, without anything to hide behind. Just you, facing the truth of who you are when all the noise stops. This is where most people panic, because they realize they don't know who they are without their roles, their achievements, their relationships defining them. Take away the job title, the relationship status, the social media persona, the carefully curated image, and what's left? This question terrifies most people because the answer feels like nothing. But this unknowing is sacred space. It's in this emptiness that your authentic voice can finally be heard. The practice isn't about finding yourself, it's about removing everything that isn't yourself until what remains is undeniably real. This requires enormous courage because it means confronting the possibility that you've been living a complete lie, that everything you thought was important might be meaningless, that everyone you thought loved you was actually loving your performance. 6. Release the soul-destroying addiction to others' approval. The person you've been pretending to be was designed to earn love, acceptance, and validation from others. This creates an addiction more powerful than any substance because it hijacks your fundamental need for connection and belonging. But the cruel irony is that the more you twist yourself to gain approval, the less genuine connection you actually experience. People aren't connecting with you, they're connecting with your performance. The love you receive is hollow because it's based on a lie. You're addicted to the applause, but starving for authentic recognition. The Taoist principle of acceptance teaches that trying to control how others perceive you is not only futile, but destructive to your own well-being. You cannot manufacture authentic love through performance. You cannot earn genuine respect by betraying your own values. The approval you gain through pretense is like junk food for your soul. It provides temporary satisfaction, but leaves you malnourished and craving more. Every compliment feels empty because you know it's directed at your mask, not your face. Every achievement feels hollow because you know you're succeeding at being someone you're not. 7. Trust the terrifying process of becoming nobody special. Modern culture is obsessed with being special, unique, standing out, making your mark. Social media has amplified this to unbearable levels where everyone is desperately trying to curate the perfect life, the perfect image, the perfect story. But Taoism suggests that true freedom comes from releasing the need to be somebody important. This doesn't mean becoming passive or giving up on growth. It means recognizing that your worth isn't dependent on achievements, status, or recognition. When you stop trying to be special, you discover the profound ordinariness that connects you to all life. You realize that your struggles, your fears, your desires are part of the universal human experience. This recognition brings deep relief because you can finally stop pretending to have it all figured out. You can admit your uncertainties, your failures, your humanity without feeling like you're disappointing some impossible standard. The pressure to be extraordinary is what keeps you trapped in performance mode. But there is profound beauty in being ordinary, in being human, in being real. 8. Practice the revolutionary art of unbecoming. Instead of constantly trying to become someone better, more successful, more enlightened, Taoism invites us to practice unbecoming everything we've learned to be. This is perhaps the most radical teaching because it goes against every message our culture sends us about self-improvement and personal development. But unbecoming isn't about becoming less, it's about removing the layers of conditioning that prevent your authentic nature from shining through. It's like a sculptor who doesn't create the statue by adding clay, but by removing everything that isn't the statue. Your true self isn't something you need to build or achieve, it's something you need to uncover by releasing everything you've learned to be that isn't genuinely you. This process is often more painful than building a new identity because it requires letting go of familiar patterns, comfortable roles, predictable responses. It means admitting that much of what you thought was personal growth was actually just more sophisticated forms of pretending. 9. Accept the profound loneliness of authenticity. When you stop pretending, you will likely find yourself more alone than you've ever been. Some relationships will end because they were based on your false identity rather than your real self. Some social circles will no longer feel comfortable because you no longer fit the role they expected you to play. Some people will feel threatened by your authenticity because it highlights their own pretense. This loneliness is different from the isolation you felt while pretending because it's honest. It's the loneliness of truth rather than the isolation of deception. The Taoist sages often spoke of the hermit's path, not because they advocated literal physical isolation, but because they understood that finding your authentic self sometimes requires stepping away from the crowd. This solitude isn't punishment, it's incubation. It's the necessary space where your real voice can develop strength. Most people are so afraid of this loneliness that they'll choose familiar dysfunction over unknown authenticity. They'll stay in relationships that don't nourish them, jobs that don't fulfill them, social circles that don't see them, because the alternative feels like death. 10. Understand that authenticity is not a destination, but a lifelong practice. You will never arrive at a place where being yourself becomes easy and automatic. The cultural programming that taught you to be someone else doesn't disappear overnight. The family patterns that shaped your false identity will continue to exert their influence. The social pressures that created your masks will find new and creative ways to seduce you back into performance. Authenticity is a daily choice, a moment-by-moment decision to honor your truth even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's inconvenient, even when it costs you something you thought you needed. The Taoist practice of daily return to the source isn't a one-time enlightenment experience. It's a commitment to continuously choosing reality over illusion, truth over comfort, being over seeming. Some days you'll succeed magnificently at being yourself. Other days, you'll catch yourself slipping back into old patterns of performance and people-pleasing. This doesn't mean you've failed, it means you're human, and the path back to yourself is not a straight line. The path back to yourself isn't about adding more to your identity, it's about having the courage to subtract everything that was never truly yours. The ancient Taoists understood that we come into this world perfect and complete, but we learn to be broken. We learn to hide our light, to doubt our worth, to seek validation outside ourselves. The journey isn't about becoming someone new, it's about remembering who you were before the world taught you to be afraid of your own truth. This remembering is both the most difficult and most liberating thing you will ever do. It requires facing the terrifying possibility that everything you thought you knew about yourself might be wrong. But on the other side of that terror lies the most profound relief you've ever experienced, the relief of finally coming home to yourself. Your true nature is not your thoughts about yourself, not your emotions about yourself, not your story about yourself. It exists in the awareness that observes all of these things without being defined by any of them. It's the space of pure being that remains unchanged, whether you're succeeding or failing, loved or rejected, praised or criticized. This essence can never be damaged by your mistakes, diminished by your failures, or enhanced by your achievements. It simply is, and it has been waiting patiently for your return your entire life. The brutal truth of Taoism isn't that life is meaningless or that nothing matters. It's that the meanings you've been pursuing and the identities you've been maintaining are preventing you from experiencing the profound significance that emerges when you align with your authentic nature. The person you've been pretending to be is blocking you from the person you actually are, and that person is far more interesting, far more capable, and far more lovable than any character you could ever manufacture. If you found something real in these words, something that resonated with the part of you that's tired of pretending, then I invite you to like this video and subscribe to this channel. This isn't just about consuming content, it's about joining a community of people who are committed to the difficult but necessary work of becoming authentic. The journey back to yourself is not meant to be walked alone, and having others who understand this path makes all the difference. Your subscription tells me that you're ready to explore these deeper truths about existence, consciousness, and what it means to be genuinely human. Together, we can support each other in the brave act of removing our masks and discovering the beauty that lies beneath.